Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today, you guys, I am super excited and loving to cover Bridgerton Season 1, Episode 4, An Affair of Honor. Oh my goodness, what an episode. I cannot wait to talk about this. I'm dying. I know I'm a little slow on this show, but I am obsessed. So much fun. I cannot wait to talk about this episode. Let's get into it. So much happens. Okay, so Daphne and her mom are there for Queen Charlotte. So at first I was like, oh, this fancy room, where are they? They're there for Queen Charlotte. But more specifically, turns out Prince Frederick, by the way, she announces is her nephew. I totally missed that the last episode. Did not know that was her nephew. From Prussia. So he's a prince from Prussia. And he's there and he's asked Daphne and her mother to come. So he walks up and says he's flattered by her acceptance of her invitation. He gives her a necklace. When he's putting it on her, bam. She flashes to Duke of Hastings, Simon, and she's thinking about him. So we know, obviously, Daphne is still all about Simon. But, since Simon said he no longer wants to be part of her life or to even be friends, then she's trying to make herself fall in love with this prince. So we can see how well that's going because she immediately is picturing the Duke. Who could blame her? Damn. Okay, so when she gets home, her sister is like, "Oh my gosh, am I gonna be in line for the throne?" They're also so excited for her. She doesn't really want to talk about it. So Whistledown is voiceovering saying, marrying above one's station is an art form indeed, but Miss Bridgerton's advance from future duchess to possible princess is an achievement that even this jaded author must applaud. So the Duke of Hastings has already announced he wants to go. He's gonna leave. He's not sure where he's gonna go. Whistledown says Duke of Hastings may have let the diamonds slip through his fingers now, but I shall wager he is not a man to ever hide from a fight. So this is his buddy. I cannot remember this guy's name, but they're boxing. He's a boxer, and his friend's asking him, hey, don't leave yet. Just come to my boxing match. I need to build up the purse to support his family if he wins. Meanwhile, we go over to Marina. This very scary man is checking her out. He's Lord Rutledge. This is a scheme that Baroness Portia has concocted to marry her off quickly, so that way they'll do the hippity-dippity and the husband won't realize, oh, hey, that's not my kid, because, of course, she's expecting a baby, and that's what's done back then. So this guy is a creep, and Marina obviously protests it, and Portia's like, tough, this is what we're doing. So yeah, it's not going well. Okay, so then this guy arrives, Mr. Finch. He comes in sneezing, and they say, oh no, Marina's gone for the day. And he's like, no, I'm here to call upon Philippa. So they're all shocked. She seems super excited about it, and it's cute. It's cute to see them together. So Penelope and Eloise decide to go for a walk. Eloise is upset about all this with Daphne, all the hubbub about her possibly marrying this prince, and she's worried because when Daphne gets engaged, she will be next in line to get engaged. So she hopes, to quote her, she hopes Daphne will stay on the shelf forever. She doesn't understand why she should have to marry. This is an ongoing theme with her. She seems way more independent, way less into the customs. So Anthony takes Daphne to the boxing match, right? And her prince is waiting for her, Prince Frederick. And he asks Anthony to bring her, and it's a surprise that she came because he said most women have delicate sensibilities. And it's interesting because I think against her better judgment, she starts kind of liking him. We see them like kind of laughing and stuff, but then she spots the Duke. Oh, goodness. I just swoon every time I talk about the Duke. They lock eyes. So every time he looks up, she's kind of enjoying her moment with the prince, and he's distracted by looking at her. And every time she looks up, he's working on this boxing match, and so she gets distracted. Okay, so the fight begins, right? And it is brutal. The Duke takes off his jacket and he rolls up his sleeves and we see his muscles. And when I say we see his muscles, we see his muscles. It is not fair for a human to look that good and to have those muscles. It's not fair. Daphne cannot contain herself. She keeps checking him out as well. So she's making conversation with the prince, and he says he loves Prussia, but he feels okay about the idea of raising a family in England. So he's talking earnestly to her about what he wants in a wife and what he's looking for and that sort of thing. And she smiles at the prince, but all she can focus on is the Duke. So she gets into the fight. She stands up, she starts cheering loudly and kind of getting into things, and the prince watches on and he's intrigued, and then the Duke starts watching and really gets into watching her. His friend ends up winning the match, and the Duke didn't even register that his friend won because he's watching Daphne so hard. So then they go to it's like the gentleman gathering club meeting, whatever, and they're looking for their payments from the fight. So something I feel like must come from this, right? Because they're looking for their payments, and the guy's like, don't worry, it'll be here soon. Okay, so then we see that painter. We saw him in the last episode, and this Bridgerton brother. And I say it like that because the focus so far has only been on Anthony and Colin. This is neither of these. So I believe his name is Benedict Bridgerton. Kind of talking to the artist. Okay, but then they flash over and it's Anthony, and he's sitting with the Duke. And he hears that the Duke will be leaving England, and he's sorry to see him go. And when they're talking, the prince comes up and asks for a word with Lord Bridgerton, which he's now the man of the household because, of course, their father had passed away, so he's in charge, so he comes to speak to him. The Duke is not happy about this. So we go over to Lady Bridgerton. She's mad that Daphne went to a boxing match. She says it's no place for a lady. Anthony walks in and says he has news, that apparently Prince Frederick has asked his permission to propose to Daphne. And Mom says, what did you tell him? He says he will not answer for his sister. That's a first, because he was all ready to marry her off to that creep before. But he won't answer for his sister, but he has no objections. And he says, whether you decide, Daphne, whatever you decide, you shall have my support. Daphne isn't sure. Mom says you need not decide now. You haven't known him long. So it's cool that they're not pressuring her into this. So Daphne's staring at herself in the mirror, and her mom comes in. And she says she doesn't understand what happened. What happened with the Duke? You guys seemed like you were in love. I know what I saw. Daphne says what you saw was a lie. She ends up telling her that it was a ruse. And Mom is obviously shocked, and she said it was so she could be more desirable, and it worked. But obviously her mom knows her and can see that she's very upset. So Daphne says, it's not real, it's over. I do not have to pretend anymore. And she apologizes to her mom, and they hug. But obviously her mom knows that she has strong feelings for the Duke, because how could you not? Because you can't fake that kind of chemistry. Okay, so then Lady Danbury is over at the Duke's place, and he's being packed up. He's not sure where he's going to go yet, but she says, you're going to do what you always have done, which is take everything for granted, and she expected more from him. And so I love Lady Danbury. She's always the voice of reason. She's like, you're messing this up, don't go. And he's trying to, say, well, this king fell in love with her, and she's saying love conquers all. And this was so powerful because she explains it. She says, listen, the king fell in love with somebody from a different race, and it made us all join together. And he says that remains to be seen. But it's an interesting history lesson there, and it's interesting to see, how this all came to be. So they're over at the ball, right? And the Whistledown had already warned us that she loves a scandal, and tonight's ball promises more than its fair share. So Lady Trowbridge is throwing this. She's recently widowed. The Featheringtons arrive. Baroness hands off Marina to Lord Rutledge, who is so creepy and gross. Finch sees Philippa. He starts sneezing. They both love cheese. They talk about that. They go dance. Daphne's at the ball. Cressida comes up and says, "Oh, you look beautiful." Okay. She says, "You could have chosen anyone. You had people lined up, but you chose mine." Because remember, originally the prince was courting Cressida. Daphne says, "He made his choice. What do you expect me to do?" And the prince comes up and sees her and whisks her away and signs her dance card. And her mom looks on and chugs champagne. The Duke is walking through the house, so where they've been packing up. He walks through the house and he sees all of his things, and he sees that painting, that it's his mother's painting that he had loaned to that was it art exhibit, and he and Daphne had spent time looking at. So when he stares at it, he's frozen. Okay, so back to the Bridgerton brother. He knocks at that artist's door, and they go in, and there's this whole painting set up. So I can't show too many pictures here because they were painting nudes. And YouTube won't let me do that. So Bridgerton says he's jealous, and he says that he'll try sketching, and the artist is encouraging him, and he's just saying, just sketch what you see. Meanwhile, back at the ball, everyone's dancing. Sienna is singing. So this is the opera singer that Anthony, keeps going back and forth with. So Mom comes up and tries to introduce Anthony to a girl, but he pays absolutely no attention to her and stares at the singer. So then Baroness Portia goes to talk to Lady Crowbridge, the one hosting the ball, and they clearly don't like each other, and it's really funny to watch. So while they're talking, Philippa, the daughter, runs up, and she's crying, and she said Mr. Finch won't even look at her anymore. And she reveals that her dad told Mr. Finch something. So the Baroness goes to find him to find out what happened. So when she's talking to him, he's being such a pill. Like, he's being really rude. I mean, she's an awful person, so I don't feel too bad. But he's saying they can wait until next season, to do this courtship thing. And he's pissed at her and says he would advise her against her further embarrassing him by calling him out, at this ball. So Eloise is rooting around in somebody's room and finds this huge box of Whistledown letters. So remember, she's on this quest to find who Lady Whistledown is. And she wants to know, the ladies whose room it is, wants to know what Eloise is doing in there. She accuses the servant, as she calls herself a servant, of being Lady Whistledown. And the servant laughs and says, "You believe a servant has the time to write like Lady Whistledown? And do you think I'd be working for you if I had the money that Whistledown does?" So it was a really funny scene. I've liked Eloise up until now. I didn't like how she was. I just didn't like this episode was rough for her. I'll just leave it at that. More stuff coming up. Okay, so back to the ball. So we know Penelope has had a thing for Colin forever, right? So she's talking to Colin, and she's encouraging Colin. I think Marina needs help. So Colin's like, okay, yeah. So he goes to rescue Marina because she's been stuck with this mean old man. And so Colin goes to her, and they dance. And I think Penelope realizes, oh crap, what have I done? So Daphne and the prince begin to dance. And he starts a speech. He says from the moment he laid eyes on her, and then, so this dance requires that they switch partners. So he's kind of in and out of this speech. We know where he's going with this. Every time she ends up back with him, he kind of continues on. He says, "I left Prussia to find somebody to start a family with," and then trails off. "I have one question to ask Miss Bridgerton." And before he can get to it, she says she needs a moment. And she runs outside. She can't breathe. She just needs some air. So she runs outside. She immediately takes off the necklace that the prince had given her so she can just get some air and breathe better. And while she's taking a moment, who should come up behind her? It's the Duke. Duke Hastings. So she's startled, and he says he came to say goodbye. She says, "We're not friends. We never were, as you made it abundantly clear." So I love her. I love that she's standing up for herself and she won't just swoon because he's, come back just to talk to her, say goodbye or whatever. He says he's sorry, and she says, your apology has no effect on my life. She says she's marrying the prince and she'll be happy indeed. And he says, will you? Will you be happy? And she says, why would I not be? Anyway, so they stare at each other, and she says, are you going to say anything? And he doesn't. So she goes off to leave. She takes off running. And he stands there looking like this, all brooding. And to take off running from him, I don't understand how she made her feet run away. He's chased her into the gardens, and he calls after her to stop. So she finally stops. She turns around. And they finally kiss. Oh my gosh, the kiss. So they gave one kiss. And it was good, but you guys, that second kiss is everything. So they pull apart and he says, my sincere apologies. Well, she grabs him and really kisses him. They kiss big. It was like the buildup of all these episodes. They finally kiss and they're starting to get into it, really get into it. And annoying Anthony comes up and interrupts. So Anthony just runs up full force. I don't know if he thinks that the Duke is taking advantage or what, but he runs up and punches the Duke right in the face. And he says, you will marry her immediately. And the Duke says he cannot marry her. So what happens? Anthony says he demands a duel. So it's all about her honor. Says that they will settle this as gentlemen. So, of course, with a duel, one of them is going to die. So Daphne looks at the Duke and says, you'd rather die than marry me? And all the Duke can say is, I'm truly sorry. So Daphne is obviously just completely not understanding. Daphne and Anthony end up going back into the ball. Daphne is so upset. So Anthony tells Colin that he's going to take Daphne home because she's got a terrible headache. Meanwhile, Cressida comes up and says, Daphne, you look unwell. Did you catch a chill in the garden? Bum, bum, bum. So she saw it. Anthony says Daphne has a headache. Like I say, he'll be escorting her home. We go back over to the other Bridgerton brother. He's with the artist. They're alone. They're drawing. I'm not sure where the storyline is going. I mean, maybe it's like, I don't know. I don't know if they're flirting with each other. It seems to be some sort of attraction there. I can't really tell. So we'll see. But I feel like something dark and sinister might be going on. But I'm not real sure yet. Okay, so the artist is saying, you're welcome back at my place anytime for practice or for conversation. So we'll see. Maybe they're flirting. Meanwhile, Baroness Featherington is calling her husband an intolerable man. And she's looking through his papers. She's not sure what she's going to find, but she's looking for something because she can tell something is up with him. Then we find out Marina is super into Colin. So she's telling this to Penelope, and of course Penelope is sad because she loves him. Marina says she believes that Colin will propose soon and save her from Rutledge. How she got that from one dance, I do not understand. Penelope paces and she cries when Marina leaves. I felt so bad for Penelope this episode. Eloise throws rocks at the window to get Penelope's attention. So all Penelope wants to do is just be, I don't know, sad about this whole situation. But she goes down to see what's going on with Eloise. All Eloise can talk about is the theories of who could possibly be Miss Whistledown. So Penelope says, she's trying to say stop, but Eloise won't listen. So Penelope says people have real problems that are nothing to do with the identity of a writer. So they have a falling out, which sucks because I love their friendship. She says not everyone can be a pretty Bridgerton. And Eloise walks off upset. Penelope is obviously upset. She's having a terrible night. I feel bad for both of them. So then we see Anthony talking to Daphne. He says, I should have protected you better. And Daphne says, you think because I'm a woman, I'm incapable of making my own choices? And Daphne says they can't duel because there must be another way. And so that's when it was Anthony and Colin end up talking about what will happen if they duel. We see the Duke talking to his friend, that boxer guy, telling him of the duel as well, and that he needs him to go with him as well. So, I hate this whole storyline so much. So, nobody's happy. Anthony's sitting here, and he finally ends up going over to Sienna's apartment. So remember, that's the opera singer. He goes to her and says he duels at dawn, and if he lives to see sunrise, he'll be free of rules of society. Because basically, if he ends up shooting the Duke, then he'll have to be on the run, and he wants to take her with him. And she's at first not sure, but they end up kissing it up big time. So they hook up. He spends the night. That's where he ends up leaving from to go to the duel in the morning. So Baron Featherington goes into his office and finds his wife there. We knew she was going to find something. I thought maybe love letters or something. Nope, that's not what it is. Gambling. He's got huge gambling debts. Apparently he has spent all their money, including the girl's dowry. That's why he's not trying to get them courting or whatever. So he even owes money to Marina's father. And he ends up breaking down and crying and saying he's failed them all. And his wife's kind of in shock and trying to pat his arm, but she looks so mad. Something bad's going to happen here. I'm just not sure what yet. So Daphne is pacing, and she realizes there's just something she has to do. So she goes to find Colin and asks where they have gone to duel. And she realizes Cressida already saw her and the Duke together because of that comment she made. So there's no sparing her honor either way, so they don't need to duel. So she says she might be able to stop this. We see Anthony hand over his watch and make his brother swear if he dies that his lady will be provided for. The Duke arrives. Daphne races in to try to stop the duel. So we see this duel start, right? And they have to take these paces. They pull their guns on each other. The Duke never actually will lower his gun toward Anthony. He just keeps it up in the air. He just can't do it. And we do see Anthony, however, I don't know if he actually points it at the Duke, but he points it in his general direction. So, but Daphne is able to run in with her horse right into the middle and stop the duel, stop the showdown, stop the madness. So Daphne, when she goes in the middle, Anthony shoots in the air, and Daphne, the horse is startled, so she falls to the ground. They both go running up to see if she's okay. And luckily she is fine. She says she requires a moment with the Duke. So she is able to explain that Crescenda saw them in the garden, and if she doesn't marry him, then she'll be ruined. And he says he cannot. And again, I thought this all had to do with his dad and the flashbacks we saw there. And she says, what possible reason could you have to remove me to shame? And he says it's because he regards her so highly he cannot marry her. And she says, I know you do not love me. I don't know how you could despise me this much. And he says, no. Then he drops a bomb on us and he says, if he were to wed, I could never give you children. And he says, is that your dream, to be a mother? And he said, you deserve nothing less than everything. And he said, I cannot provide that for you. And please, for your own sake, you must stand aside and let your brother finish this. So he's ready to go out and die. I mean, it's so heartbreaking. And if we finally can see more clearly, like, what's happening. This whole time I thought it was despite his dad, because he said he will never carry on the family name, but now I understand. I mean, he's had something done or something's happened where he can no longer have children, and he knows that will hurt her. Oh my goodness. So he goes back to resume the duel with Anthony, and Daphne stops it again and says, there's no need to resume this duel because the Duke and I are to be married. Oh my gosh. So right there we learned she's making the choice. She loves him. This is who she wants to be with. And even a bomb like, not being able to have children, even though that's her dream, she's willing to give it up to marry the Duke. So, Oh, such a good episode. So much happened in this one. I just couldn't believe it. I was kind of shocked by it all. And wow, I just can't wait to get into the next one to see what's going on next. I say it a lot, but I love this Duke. He's such a good actor. It's not just because he's hot, and he is hot, but he's such a good actor. And she's great too. I mean, they're all great, but oh man, so good. I'm really enjoying this series. I think when I'm done, I'm going to have to go read the books. I heard the books are fantastic, so I'm going to go read those. Thank you guys for that recommendation. And yeah, so that is it for the episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed. I'm so enjoying covering this series, and I'll try to keep coming with the episodes. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm watching this on Netflix, by the way, if you want to watch along with me. And I hope you guys have a fantastic week. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.